Hey Duck YouTube, welcome back to a new video with Rams fan YT. In today's video, we'll be looking at probably quite a big club, I'd say, in terms of League One football clubs. Certainly in my eyes, anyhow, we won the FA Cup. Charlton Athletic. So Charlton Athletic were formed on the 9th of June 1905 by a group of 14 to 15-year-olds in East Street, Charlton, which is now known as Eastmoor Street and no longer residential. Contrary to some histories, the club was founded as Charlton Athletic and had no connection to other teams or institutions such as East Street Mission, Blundell Mission or Charlton Reds. It was not founded by a church, school, employer, or as a franchise for an existing ground. Charlton spent most of the years before the First World War playing in local leagues, but progressing rapidly, winning successive leagues and so promotions 8 years in a row. In 1905-06, the team played only friendly games, but joined and won the Lewisham League Division 3 for the 1906-07 season. For the 1907-08 season, the team contested the Lewisham League, the Woolwich League, and entered the Woolwich Cup. It was also around this time that Addict's nickname was first used in the local press, although it may have been used before then. And actually, just to tell you where the nickname Addicts came from, when I did a bit of research about this separately, I found out that it was due to the local fishmonger coming and selling haddocks and chips, which were very well known around the area of London, this guy. And so they became known as the haddocks, or as they say in that area of London's accent, the addicts. And so that's how they gained their nickname, so to say. And in the 1908-09 season, Charlton Athletic were playing in the Blackheath and District League, and by 1910-11 had progressed to the Southern Suburban League. During this period, Charlton Athletic won the Woolwich Cup 4 times, the Championship of the Woolwich League 3 times, won the Blackheath League twice, and the Southern Suburban League 3 times. They became a senior side in 1913, the same year that nearby Woolwich Arsenal relocated to North London. At the outbreak of World War I, Charlton were one of the first clubs to close down to take part in the greater game overseas. The club was reformed in 1917, playing mainly friendlies to raise funds for charities connected to the war and for the Woolwich Memorial Hospital Cup, the trophy for which Charlton donated. It had previously been the Woolwich Cup that the team had won outright, following 3 consecutive victories. After the war, they joined the Kent League for 1 season in 1919-20, before becoming professional, appointing Walter Rayner as the first full-time manager. They were accepted by the Southern League and played just a single season in 1920-21, before being voted into the Football League. Charlton's first Football League match was against Exeter City in August 1921, which they won 1-0. In 1923, Charlton became giant killers in the FA Cup, beating top-flight sides Manchester City, West Bromwich Albion and Preston North End, before losing to eventual winners Bolton Wanderers in the quarter-finals. Later that year, it was proposed that Charlton merge with Catford Southend to create a larger team with bigger support. In the 1923-24 season, Charlton played in Catford at Mount Stadium and wore the colours of the Enders of light and dark blue vertical stripes. However, the move fell through and the Addicts returned to the Charlton area in 1924, returning to the traditional red and white colours in the process. Charlton finished second bottom in the Football League in 1926 and were forced to apply for re-election, which was successful. 3 years later, the Addicts won the Division 3 Championship in 1929, and they remained at Division 2 level for 4 years. After relegation into the 3rd Division South at the end of 1932-33 season, the club appointed Jimmy Seed as manager, and he oversaw the most successful period in Charlton's history either side of the Second World War. Seed, an ex-miner who had made a career as a footballer despite suffering the effects of poison gas in the First World War, remains the most successful manager in Charlton's history. He is commemorated in the name of a stand at the Valley. Seed was an innovative thinker about the game at a time when tactical formations were still relatively unsophisticated. He later recorded a simple scheme that enabled us to pull several matches out of the fire. During the 1934-35 season, when the team was in trouble, the centre-half was to forsake his defensive role and go up into the attack to add weight to the five forwards. The organisation Seed brought to the team proved effective, and the Addicts gained successive promotions from the third division to the first division between 1934 and 1936, becoming the first club to ever do so. Charlton finally secured promotion to the first division by beating local rivals West Ham United at the Bowling Ground, with their centre-half John Oakes playing on despite concussion and a broken nose. In 1937, Charlton finished runners-up in the first division. In 1938, they finished fourth, and 1939 finished third. They were the most consistent team in the top flight of English football over 3 seasons immediately before the Second World War. This continued during the war years, and they won the Football League War Cup and appeared in finals. Charlton reached the 1946 FA Cup final, but lost 4-1 to Derby County at Wembley. Come on, you Rams. Well, Charlton's Bert Turner scored an own goal in the 80th minute before equalising for the Addicts a minute later to take them into extra time, but they conceded 3 further goals in the extra period. When the full league programme resumed in 1946-47, Charlton could only finish 19th in the first division, just above the relegation spots, but they made amends with their performance in the FA Cup, reaching the 1947 FA Cup final. This time they were successful, beating Burnley 1-0 with Chris Duffy scoring the only goal of the day. In this period of renewed football attendances, Charlton became one of the only 13 English football teams to average over 40,000 as their attendance during a full season. The Valley was the largest football ground in the league, drawing crowds in excess of 70,000. However, in the 1950s, little investment was made either for players or to the Valley, hampering the club's growth. In 1956, the then board undermined Jimmy Seed and asked for his resignation, with Charlton being relegated the following year. From the late 1950s until the early 1970s, Charlton remained a mainstay of the second division, before relegation to the third division in 1972 caused the team's support to drop, and even a promotion in 1975 back to the second division did little to reinvigorate the team's support and finances. In 1979-80, Charlton relegated again to the third division, but won immediate promotion back to the second division in 1980-81. This was a turning point in the club's history, leading to a period of turbulence and change, including further promotion and exile. A change in management and shortly after a change in club ownership led to severe problems, such as the reckless signing of former European Footballer of the Year, Alan Simonson, and the club looked like it would go out of business. In 1984, financial matters came to a head, and the club went into administration, to be reformed as Charlton Athletic 1984 Limited. Although the club's finances were still far from secure, they were forced to leave the Valley just after the start of the 1985-86 season, after its safety was criticised by the Football League officials in the wake of the Bradford City Stadium fire. The club began to ground share with Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park, and this arrangement looked to be for the long term, as Charlton did not have enough funds to revamp the Valley to meet safety requirements. Despite the move away from the Valley, Charlton were promoted to the first division as second division runners-up at the end of the 1985-86 season, and remained at this level for 4 years, achieving a highest league finish of 14th, often with late escapes, most notably against Leeds in 1987, where the Addicts triumphed in extra time with a playoff final replay to secure their top-flight place. In 1987, Charlton also returned to Wembley for the first time since the 1947 FA Cup final for the Four Members Cup final against Blackburn. Eventually, Charlton were relegated in 1990, along with Sheffield Wednesday and bottom club Millwall. Manager Lenny Lawrence remained in charge for one more season before he had accepted an offer to take charge of Middlesbrough. He was replaced by joint player managers Alan Kirbishley and Steve Gritt. The pair had unexpected success in their first season, finishing just outside the playoffs. And 1992-93 began promisingly, and Charlton looked good bets for promotion in the new Division 1, the new name of the old second division following the formation of the Premier League. Gets a bit confusing this time. The club was forced to sell players such as Rob Lee to help to pay for a return to the Valley, while club fans formed the Valley Party, nominating candidates to stand in local elections in 1990, pressing the local council to enable the club's return to the Valley, finally achieved in December 1992. In March 1993, defender Tommy Catton, who had been out of action due to injury since January 1991, announced his retirement from playing on medical advice. He died suddenly at the end of the following month at the age of only 30. And my thought goes with all his family who probably still miss him. In 1995, new chairman Richard Murray appointed Alan Kirbishley as sole manager at Charlton. Under his sole leadership, Charlton made an appearance in the playoff final in 1996, but were eliminated by Crystal Palace in the semi-finals, and the following season brought a disappointing 15th place finish. 1997-98 was Charlton's best season for years. They reached the Division 1 playoff final and battled against Sunderland in a thrilling game, which ended with a 4-4 draw after extra time. Charlton won 7-6 on penalties, with a match described as arguably the most dramatic game of football in Wembley's history, and were promoted to the Premier League. Charlton's first Premier League campaign began promisingly. They went top after only 2 games, but they were unable to keep their good form and were soon battling relegation. The battle was lost on the final day of the season, but the club's board kept faith in Kirbishley, confident that they could bounce back. Kirbishley rewarded the chairman's loyalty with a Division 1 title in 2000, which signalled a return to the Premier League. After the club's return, Kirbishley proved an astute spender, and by 2003 he had succeeded in establishing Charlton in the top flight. Charlton spent much of the 2003-04 Premier League season challenging for a Champions League place, but a late season slump in form and the sale of star player Scott Parker to Chelsea left Charlton in 7th place, which was still the club's highest finish since the 1950s. Charlton were unable to build on this level of achievement, and Kirbishley departed in 2006, with the club still established as a solid mid-table side. In May 2006, Ian Dowie was named as Kirbishley's successor, but was sacked after just 12 league matches in November 2006, with only 2 wins. Les Reed replaced Dowie as manager, however he too failed to improve Charlton's position in the league table. And on Christmas Eve 2006, Reed was replaced by former player Alan Pardew. Although results did improve, Pardew was unable to keep Charlton up, and relegation was confirmed in the penultimate match of the season. Charlton's return to the second tier of the English football was a disappointment, with their promotion campaign tailing off to an 11th place finish. Early in the following season, the Addicts were linked with a foreign takeover, but this was swiftly denied by the club. On the 10th of October 2008, Charlton received an indicative offer for the club from a Dubai-based diversified investment company. However, the deal later fell through. The full significance of this soon became apparent as the club recorded net losses of over £13 million for that financial year. Pardew left on the 22nd of November after a 5-2 home loss to Sheffield United that saw the team fall into the relegation places. Matters did not improve under caretaker manager Phil Parkinson, and the team went a club record 18 games without a win, a new club record, before finally a 1-0 away victory over Norwich City in an FA Cup third-round replay. Parkinson was hired on a permanent basis, and the team were relegated to League One after a 2-2 draw against Blackpool on the 18th of April 2009. After spending almost the entire of the 2009-10 season in the top six of League One, Charlton were defeated in the Football League One playoff semi-final second leg on penalties against Swindon Town. After a change in ownership, Parkinson and Charlton legend Mark Kinsella, I think it is, left after a poor run of results. Another Charlton legend, Chris Powell, was appointed manager of the club in January 2011, winning his first game in charge 2-0 over Plymouth at the Valley. This was Charlton's first league win since November. Powell's bright start continued with a further 3 victories, before running into a downturn which saw the club go 11 games in succession without a win. Yet the fans' respect for Powell saw him come under remarkably little criticism. The club's fortunes picked up towards the end of the season, but leaving them far short of the playoffs. In a busy summer, Powell brought in 19 new players, and after a successful season, on the 14th of April 2012, Charlton Athletic won promotion for Championship with a 1-0 away win at Carlisle United. A week later, on the 21st of April 2012, they were confirmed as champions after a 2-1 home win over Wycombe Wanderers. Charlton then lifted the League One trophy on the 5th of May 2012, having been in top position since the 15th of September 2011, and after recording a 3-2 victory over Hartlepool United, recorded their highest ever league point score of 101, the highest in any professional European league that year. In the first season back in the Championship, the 2012-13 season saw Charlton finish 9th place with 65 points, just 3 points short of the playoff places to the Premier League. In early January 2014, during the 2013-14 season, Belgian businessman Rolando Ducharley took over Charlton as owner in a deal worth £14 million. This made Charlton a part of a network of football clubs owned by Duchatelet. On the 11th of March 2014, 2 days after an FA Cup quarter-final loss to Sheffield United, and with Charlton sitting bottom of the table, Powell was sacked and leaked private emails suggesting that this was due to a rift with the owner. New manager Jose Vega, despite having to join Charlton long after the transfer window had closed, was able to improve Charlton's form and eventually guide them to 18th place, successfully avoiding relegation. After Vega's departure to manage Blackpool, former Millwall player Bob Peters was appointed as manager in May 2014 on a 12-month contract. Charlton started strong, but a long run of draws meant that after only 25 games in charge, Peters was dismissed with the team in 14th place. His replacement, Guy Luzon, was ensured that there was no relegation battle by winning most of the remaining matches, resulting in a 12th place finish. The 2015-16 season began promisingly, but results under Luzon deteriorated, and on the 24th of October 2015, after a 3-0 defeat at home to Brentford, he was sacked. Luzon said in a New Shopper interview that he was not the one who chose how to do recruitment, as the reason why he failed as manager. Carol Freyer was appointed interim head coach, but was sacked after 14 games and just 2 wins, with the club then second from bottom in the Championship. On the 14th of January 2016, Jose Vega was appointed head coach for a second spell, but could not prevent Charlton from being relegated to League One for the 2016-17 season. Vega resigned at the end of the season. To many fans, the managerial changes and subsequent relegation to League One were symptomatic of the mismanagement of the club under Duchalet's ownership, and several protests began. After a slow start to the new season, with the club in 15th place of League One, the club announced that it parted company with Russell Slade in November 2016. Carl Robinson was appointed on a permanent basis soon after. He led the Addicts to an uneventful 13th place finish. The following season, Robinson had the team challenging for the playoffs, but a drop in form in March led him to resign by mutual consent. He was replaced by former player Lee Bowyer as caretaker manager, who guided them to a 6th place finish, but lost in the playoff semi-final. Bowyer was appointed permanently in September on a one-year contract, and after finishing third in the regular 2018-19 EFL League One season, Charlton beat Sunderland 2-1 in the League One playoff final to earn promotion back to the EFL Championship after a 3-year absence. Bowyer later signed a one-year contract following promotion, which was later extended to 3 years in January 2020. On the 19th of November 2019, Charlton Athletic were acquired by East Street Investments from Abu Dhabi, subject to approval from the English Football League. Approval was reportedly granted on the 2nd of January 2020. However, on the 10th of March 2020, a public disagreement between the new owners erupted, along with reports that the main investor was pulling out, and the EFL said the takeover had not been approved. The Valley and Charlton's training ground was still owned by Duchatelet, and the transfer embargo was in place, as the new owners had not provided evidence of funding through to June 2021. On the 20th of April 2020, the EFL announced that the club had been placed under investigation for misconduct regarding the takeover. In June 2020, Charlton confirmed that the ESI had been taken over by a consortium led by businessman Paul Elliott, and said it had contacted the EFL to finalise the ownership change. However, a legal dispute involving former ESI director Matt Southall continued. He attempted to regain control of the club to prevent Elliott's takeover from going ahead, but failed and was subsequently fined and dismissed for challenging the club's directors. On the 7th of August 2020, the EFL said 3 individuals, including ESI owner Elliott and lawyer Chris Farnell, had failed its owners and directors test, leaving the club's ownership unclear. Charlton appealed against the decision. Meanwhile, Charlton were relegated back to League One at the end of the 2019-20 season after finishing 22nd. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the final games of the season were played behind closed doors, which remained the case for the majority of the following season. Later in August, Thomas Sandgaard, a Danish businessman based in Colorado, was reported to be negotiating to buy the club. After further court hearings, Elliott was granted an injunction blocking the sale of ESI until a hearing in November 2020. On the 25th of September 2020, Thomas Sandgaard acquired the club itself from ESI and was reported to have passed the EFL's owners and directors tests. The EFL noted the change in control, but said the club's sale was now a matter for the interested parties. On the 15th of March 2021, with the club lying in 8th place, Bowyer resigned as manager of the club and soon after was appointed manager of Birmingham City. His successor Nigel Adkins was appointed 3 days later. The club finished the 2020-21 season in 7th place, but started the following season by winning only 2 out of 13 League One matches and were in a relegation zone when Adkins was sacked on the 21st of October 2021. We are yet to see really what will be the outcome of that decision and whether Charlton actually do stay up. It does look like they are certainly looking on the up. Maybe a mid-table finish towards the end of this season is most realistic. But thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you're new around here. That'd be hugely appreciated. I've got the Championship managers. How good were they as a player? Please check out the Premier League one if you haven't done that already. I'm doing a little series on that, which I'm hoping interests you. And then I'm going to have another history of your club with Cheltenham Town, which I would argue is a bit of a smaller club. But you can argue that in the comments if you want. But goodbye for now.